Hey guys, sorry for the little bit of delay, but looking forward to this. Are you guys ready? Have you read the book? What did you think about it? I'm so excited. We were waiting for this book, and I think it lived up to it was worth the wait. The fact that I didn't get it, and then we waited for it, it was totally worth the wait. It was beautiful, poignant. Did it make you cry? I wept through a bit of it. It was so touching, and the best part was that the fact that I could, the culture and the land, and there was so much more that you could understand about the whole people. I mean, how do you do it? She has painted such a beautiful picture. I felt like I was living in that era. I was living over there. I have a confession to make. While I was on the holiday, those 3 4 days that I was off, and I was reading the end of the book, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. Every time I came out of the book, I was like, I had to remind myself that yes, I'm in this beautiful place, but I would keep going back into this book. The book had literally taken hold of me. I'm so dying to know what you guys think about it. And let's connect with the author. And considering what happened with the live last time and we couldn't really do a face-to-face, fingers are crossed. Let's go and try this. So go for it. Tell me, guys, what do you think? Hi. Oh, Vidya, Vidya says yes, when Sunja was at Isaac's grave, that was heartbreaking. I think it was also heartbreaking because I want to ask the author, why would she do this to Noah? I think with that. So, yeah. Hey, Min, how are
Hey, Min,
you?
how are you?
Sonali, hello.
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
Greetings from Sydney.
Min, I'm
Min,
happy that you've
I'm
joined us,
happy
but
that
I
you've
have
joined
to
us,
say,
but I have to say,
just 1 second, I'm getting an
just one
echo.
second, I'm getting an echo.
Okay, so
Okay,
this is,
so this is,
Min, I love the book.
Min, I love the book.
Oh,
I
thank you
have
so
read
much.
through
I
it,
have
laughed
read
through
through
it,
it, laughed through it,
loved it, but I
loved
have a
it,
few
but
complaints.
I have a few complaints.
Can I start with the
Can I
complaint?
start with the complaint?
Because I'm dying to ask
Because
you,
I'm
why
dying
would
to
you do
ask
this
you,
to
why would
Noah?
you do this to Noah?
Oh, yes. Well, it's actually based on the truth. I interviewed a lot of people who are like Noah, who are Korean Japanese people who have to pretend they're Japanese.
Hmm.
And invariably, many of these sad stories where when they were discovered, they did do that terrible thing.
But he had made a life
But
for
he had made a
himself,
life
and
for himself, and wow,
couldn't there be any
But it
other
was a
way?
couldn't there be any other way?
lies. It was a life based on lies. And also, I was trying to argue allegorically that a person like this who is so strict about the world, where he could, and also, if you think about it, he's a very hard hearted person, the way he wouldn't forgive his mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
His mother was an innocent young woman when she made this error of falling in love with this man.
Yeah, but
So,
why
Yeah,
would
but
he not be
why
able
would
to
he
forgive?
not be able to forgive?
Oh, and also, something I should really say is that even today in 2019, there are many Korean Japanese who don't like to discuss the fact that they're Korean because they do
Really?
feel persecuted and
Really?
discriminated against today, socially. So being a Korean person in Japan is a very complicated thing even today.
So
over
this is
100
racism
So
in
years,
this is racism in just an
yes, right now. Like right now, there's tensions between Korea and South Korea and Japan. And the people who bear the greatest brunt of this discrimination and the two nations being hostile to each other right now in a trade war are the Korean Japanese people that are described in Pachinko.
So you would say that
No
there would
so
be
you would
at
say
least
that there
third
would be
generation,
at least third generation,
Fourth generation.
and they're still going through it.
and they're still going through it.
Yes, absolutely. Like they can't rent an apartment today. They can't get hired for jobs today. Like they can't become postal workers. They can't become nurses and teachers if they don't have the right legal status. And there's 3 different legal statuses. You have South Korean passport holders, you have North Korean identification holders, and you have those who become assimilated and become Japanese citizens. But just because you have the legal status of being a Japanese citizen does not mean that you're socially accepted as a Japanese person. You're
Even
still
today.
seen as a
Even today.
today, absolutely today.
You
As a
know,
matter of fact, if your readers goes to Japan on a trip and asks somebody who they think is Korean, "Are you Korean?" That would be considered very rude.
oh.
Like right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the beauty about the book
The
was
beauty
it
about the book
introduced
was
me to
it
Japan and
introduced
the
me to
Korean,
Japan
the
and the
whole
Korean, the
angst that is
whole
there,
angst
fourth
that is there,
generation,
fourth
and still,
generation,
you know, they're
and
not,
still, they're not,
they can't find an,
they can't find
what is the
an,
true home for them?
what
It
is the
so
true home for
sad.
them? It is so sad.
It is sad. It is really sad. And yet, what I want to also argue, Sonali, is that there are people like this all over the world who don't feel at ease, who don't feel at home, and yet they still find strength. They still have happiness in their lives. They still have love,
Yeah.
and they find it very much in their own families. So just because you are discriminated against based upon your ethnic background or your class status does not mean that your life is always tragic. That's not true. And that's what I really found in my research.
And that was beautifully
And
conveyed
that
from
was
the way
beautifully
Solomon's story
conveyed from the
comes
way
out.
Solomon's story comes out.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so tell me why
Okay, so
the
tell
name
me
Pachinko?
why the name Pachinko?
Oh, so Pachinko is an adult gambling game. It's a vertical pinball game. So it's over a $200 billion industry in Japan.
Oh.
It's a cornerstone of the Japanese economy. It's twice the export revenues of the Japanese auto industry. That's how important Pachinko is.
Oh.
So it's not for children, it's for adults, and 1 out of 11 Japanese people play it once a week. So it's not like Las Vegas where people might go once in their lifetime, go see a show, lose $100. This is something that people do normally in Japan, all over Japan, not just
So this
Tokyo,
is their social activity kind of
social
zone.
activity kind of zone.
That's right. That's right.
It's like going to the bar, grabbing
It's like going to the bar, grabbing a drink with your friends.
Yes, yes. But very often the connotation of people who play Pachinko is that they're very low class and they're desperate. And the people who dominate this industry are ethnic Korean people because they could not get regular jobs. So all the men who are ethnically Korean for generations worked in Pachinko. And then the women used to work in food services, like in restaurants.
Oh.
Oh.
So every ethnic Korean person you'll ever meet in Japan invariably has somebody in his or her family who has some connection to Pachinko. So allegorically, what I'm saying is that even though the game itself is fixed, like life, even though it is unfair and fixed, we still play.
Okay.
Okay.
I read that it's taken you a long time.
It's taken you a long time. It's been a long journey to get this book out.
Yes,
it's close to your heart. You've
It's close to your heart. You've lived this.
Yeah, I'm 50 years old. I got the idea for the book when I was 19. So for over 30 years, this book has been part of my life.
Oh my God.
I know, it's crazy.
How
did you feel
sending this baby away?
I'm so happy that I'm done. I felt like I was free from like a sentence.
But
I'm so happy it's done. It wasn't something like I was holding on to because I didn't want to let it go. It's not like that at all. I felt like I wanted to do it justice to the story, and I wanted it to be interesting. And when it was done, I felt like, oh, I'm free. I can do something else.
Okay. So what next after Pachinko?
What next after Pachinko?
Oh, I'm
it's been 30 years.
It's been 30 years. Are you going to take 30 years more?
Oh, dear God, no. Please not be the case. So I have 3 novels that I'm going to be working on. So the first one was Free from Millionaires, which was published in 2007. And then 10 years later, Pachinko was published in 2017. The third book of this trilogy, and it's a thematic trilogy, so they're not related by characters.
Right.
It's about the diaspora.
Right.
The third book is called American Hagwon. Hagwon. American Hagwon.
Okay.
Hagwon is a word for a tutoring center.
Okay.
Because I'm exploring what is the most important thing for Koreans around the world, and it's education. So right now in South Korea, when you are 4 years old, sorry, 1 second.
Yeah.
Getting connection.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah, got it. Sorry.
So 80% of 4-year-olds in South Korea go to private tutoring centers. 80% of 4-year-olds go to private tutoring centers to learn English or to get enrichment in education. And this is something that's really important for Koreans in South Korea, but also for Koreans all over the world. So I'm actually writing about tutoring centers, colleges, parents, and how we raise children. So that's the next book.
That
called
sounds
American
very,
Homework.
that is very, very
That
interesting.
sounds
I know,
that is very, very interesting. I
I
know,
have seen Korean kids who've come and stayed at
I've
home. My
seen
son
Korean
has
kids who've come
classmates
and
and
stayed
stuff.
at home. My son
And it
has
is true, they are
classmates and stuff.
so driven.
And it is true, they
They play
are
an
so
instrument, they're playing a
driven.
sport, and they're
They
great
play an
in
instrument,
studies.
they're
And
playing a sport, and they're great in studies, and
it's
Well, some are great
hard.
at studies.
it's hard.
Well, it's really hard, and also there's an enormous amount of pressure that these kids feel. So when I started researching this topic, I really thought there's something wrong. But then the more I researched, the more I realized, like, oh, this is the reason why the Koreans are doing this. And not only do the Koreans in Korea, wherever they go in the world, overseas Koreans, they take this idea of a private tutoring center and they replicate it. So if you're going to find an ethnic grocery store that sells Korean food, right next to it you will find a hagwon, and where they will learn about standardized tests or enrichment for other kinds of exams, and how to just basically improve themselves and their children.
This we are really looking forward to.
Really looking
Big fan
forward
of
to.
yours.
Big
Love
fan of
this book,
yours.
and now this is the
Love this
book that we
book,
are
and
going
now
to look
this is the
forward
book
to.
that we are going to look forward to.
So,
Thank you, Sonali.
one
So,
of our
one of our members
Vidya says
says,
that
Vidya
I
says
wanted to
that
know more
I
about
wanted to
Noah's
know
family,
more about Noah's family,
and I absolutely
Sure.
love that
and I
how little by
absolutely love
little
that how little by
everyone,
little everyone,
Muzasu or Noah or
Wazasu
Solomon,
or
all
Noah
moved
or
to
Solomon,
Pachinko
all moved
business
to Pachinko
because they felt
business
solace
because
there,
they felt
even
solace
though
there, even
judged,
though
but they
judged,
sustained
but they
monetarily.
sustained
What
monetarily.
she means to say is that they, though
What
they
she
are
means
being
to say is
judged
that
for it,
though they
but
are being
that's
judged
the
for it, but
Pachinko is
that's
something that
the
sustained
Pachinko is
them through
something
it.
that sustained them through it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because even though the most of Japanese people, they play pachinko, and even if most Japanese people really look down at pachinko, it is this industry that has actually nurtured several generations of Koreans. And rather than being ashamed of it, I wanted to talk about the fact that how much it saved their families. So
Absolutely.
even though gambling is not something that I necessarily love, I understand why these people have made a decision to save themselves.
Yeah.
So
They didn't have a
it's
choice.
What they didn't have a choice.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Neetu
Amazing.
says immensely
Neetu says
enjoyed reading.
immensely enjoyed
So many
reading.
sub stories, but
So
never
many
felt that
sub
story
stories,
was
but never
dragging.
felt that story was dragging.
Oh, good.
But honestly,
That's-
ending was a
But
bit
honestly,
adroit,
ending was
especially
a bit
after the
adroit,
suicide of
especially
Noah.
after the suicide of Noah.
So everybody is
So everybody is
real. See, I think
real.
that's
I
the
think
point of a good book
the
and good
point of a
writing.
good book and good
We
writing.
all were
We
so
all
invested
were
in
so
Noah, and we were
invested in
all
Noah, and we were all
heartbroken when we lost him.
heartbroken when we lost him.
You know, I think it's really hard for good parents because good parents want to have good children. And Noah looks superficially like a very, very good child. He tries very hard to please his mother and to save his race. Like, I mean, he has that burden on his shoulders.
Yeah.
However, what I'm trying to say is that no one can do that. No one person can save their race. And it's a completely fallacious and almost a grandiose gesture. And that kind of person who can be so binary, very often they're very hard-hearted.
Yeah.
The fact that he really thought that his father biologically was an impure person and therefore he had to reject him. I mean, that's really immature. It's an
immature. As a child, if you would look at it, Noah was always the
Noah was always
the bright one, while Muzasu was the naughty one.
Muzasu was the naughty one.
But in the long run, if you're
going to see who was the good child,
it was Muzasu who was there for the parents.
Muzasu was there for the parents.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. And also, even though Moses is not a good student, he still really wanted to be an honorable person.
Absolutely.
And that's what I wanted to really stress.
And I think in the story how he conducts his business, though it's Pachinko, the way he conducts it, the way he takes care, it comes through in that so beautifully. Also, I love the fact that Solomon kind of
the whole thing and says that, cut the crap,
I'm going to join the family business.
I'm going to join the family business.
That's right. I mean, it's a really radical gesture because he doesn't have to do it.
Absolutely. After all the education, he chooses to do it.
Exactly.
And that was so lovely.
And that was so lovely.
Right. Thank you. I'm so glad that that worked out because I really wanted to also show that people like Solomon, after multiple generations of struggle, they look to us like they're normal white collar people who are educated in the world and they're very global. It's probably the goal of many former third world countries to have their own children become international global people. And yet, they still feel a very strong sense with the prior generations, and I wanted to honor that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
I want to touch upon one
I
more
want to
thing.
touch upon one
There
more
was
thing.
this
There was this
outburst of Sunja's
outburst
mother
of Sunja's mother
Yes.
just before she died.
just before she died.
I must tell you, I didn't
I
see
must
that
tell you,
coming.
I didn't see that coming.
Well,
What was
I
the
think
thought
it's
behind?
because,
What was the thought behind?
well, I researched a lot of women of this generation. And very often, and this is with women of color all around the world, especially for those who are poor, they put up and they swallow so much humiliation in their lives. But as they get older, they start to care less. And their attitude is, you know what, I'm just going to say whatever I want to say. And it is after backbreaking work and sacrifice, they're thinking that at the very, very end, they will have the consolation of having their child near them. And when the child is not there, they're full of rage. And in that rage, she has this invective and she has this kind of incredible tantrum. And she says, unspeakably mean things to her daughter, which is not what you want. But to me, that felt very true.
No, it did. And
No,
it was
it did,
so
and
poignant
it
and
was so
beautiful.
poignant and beautiful, and
One of the parts that really
one
made
of
me
the
weep.
parts that really made me weep.
I was feeling so much for
I was feeling
all
so
the
much
three
for
women.
all
Even
the three
Kyunghee,
women,
the
even
amount
Kyunghee,
the three
the
women
amount the three women
have suffered and
have
the stuff
suffered
they've
and
gone
the
through,
stuff
and
they've
this
gone through,
immense
and the
strength that they
immense
have.
strength that they have.
And somewhere I
Well, I
must
think,
say,
And somewhere I
it's so
must say,
beautifully
it's
what you've
so
portrayed is a sisterhood.
beautifully what you portrayed as a sisterhood.
oh, absolutely. And I'm a feminist.
Yeah,
And I really believe in the power of women and also of us being connected. And when we really recognize how we are connected as sisters around the world, really powerful things can happen.
absolutely.
So,
And you've portrayed that so
portrayed that
beautifully.
so beautifully.
I was in love with
I was in
that
love with
sisterhood.
that sisterhood.
I mean, literally, that
I
entire
mean, literally,
family.
that entire family.
Sunja, her mother, and
Sunja,
Kyunghee,
her mother,
literally
and
the three
Kyunghee,
women have
literally the
pulled it
three
through.
women have pulled it through.
It was amazing.
And also,
It was amazing.
I think Kyunghee, the beautiful woman,
Yes.
the beautiful misunderstood woman, and she really appealed to me because we have so many stereotypes of how you hate your in-laws. And that's not true. Like in my experience in my research, I saw many in-laws be very kind to each other. So they're not biologically related, but they are related because they married into a family.
Absolutely.
And that sisterhood is very powerful.
But that's the truth about family. It
That's the truth
doesn't
about
have to
family.
be
It
blood.
doesn't
It's
have
what
to be
you
blood.
collect
It's what
around you.
you collect around you.
Yes, absolutely.
And that was so
And
beautiful.
that was so beautiful.
Through the book,
Through the
they're
book.
in a hostile country.
They're in a hostile
They're in a
country.
new environment,
They're in a
and
new
how they take care of
environment, and
each
how
other
they
was
take care of
heartwarming.
each other was heartwarming.
Through the book.
Can I ask you a question, Sonali?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
I want to know how you are.
Sorry, one second.
Sorry, 1 second.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, I'm losing the sound.
I'm losing the sound.
Just 1 second.
Just 1 second.
Of course.
I can't hear properly.
I can't hear properly.
I'm losing the sound.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I can't hear properly.
Min, I hope you can hear Can you hear me?
I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Oh, this is better. Yes.
Okay.
There's
Oh,
such an
this is
echo
better. Yes.
that's coming
There's such an
constantly, so
echo that's coming
it's going to be a little
constantly, so
difficult. But
it's going to be a little
what did
difficult.
you
But
want to ask me?
what did you want to ask me?
Oh, and I wanted to ask, you were so great to talk about your
Oh,
health, and I was just wondering if you're
sorry, I can't hear
Sorry,
you.
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. I just wanted to know how you were.
It's from this.
Just to say thanks.
It's from there.
What can we do about it?
What can we do about it?
No, it's fine. I just wanted to know how you were.
I'm doing much better, Min. Are
I'm
you
doing
asking
much
me how
better,
I
Lynn.
am?
Are you asking me how I am?
Yes. I'm doing so
Yes,
much
I'm
better.
doing so
I
much
think
better.
this break that I
I
took
think
was
this break
also
that I took was
lovely.
also lovely.
And earlier, I'm
And
glad I
earlier,
didn't get
I'm
the book
glad I
earlier
didn't get
because
the
I
book
wouldn't have been
earlier
able to
because I
complete it.
wouldn't have been able
So
to
I'm
complete
getting
it.
stronger
So I'm getting
emotionally also.
stronger emotionally also.
Oh, good. I'm
This
so glad.
book would have
This
really,
book would
I
have
was a
really,
little more
I
fragile
was a little more
emotionally a couple
fragile
of months back,
emotionally a couple of
but I'm
months
getting
back,
so much
but
better
I'm
now.
getting so much better now. Emotionally also.
So, Min, thank you so
So,
much for
Min, thank
joining
you
us.
so much for
We've
joining
loved
us.
your book,
We've
and we're
loved your
looking
book,
forward to the
and
next
we're
book.
looking forward to the next book.
And
Thank you,
all
Sonali,
the
so much.
messages that we are
All the
getting,
messages that we are
all our
getting,
members have liked the
all our
book
members have liked the book
unanimously,
unanimously,
and they're all heartbroken
and
with
they're all
Noah's death.
heartbroken with Noah's death.
But
But
love the sisterhood
love the
and love the
sisterhood
way you
and love the way
introduced
you
us to a new
introduced us
culture.
to a new culture.
And
And
I actually came to
I
know
actually came to know
how the Koreans in
how the
Japan are
Koreans in
living.
Japan are living.
And I did not know
And
about this.
I did
So
not know
thank you
about this.
for,
So thank you for,
kind of giving us this knowledge
kind
in
of
such a
giving us this
beautiful way.
knowledge in such a beautiful way.
Thank you, Sonali.
Looking forward to
Looking
your
forward
next
to
book.
your next book.
All the best.
All the best.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Thank you. Bye, bye, guys. Bye.